Clear Voices of Hope is a powerful collection of voices from For the Love of Cups, Clear Pathways program, dedicated to raising awareness about the realities of dense breast tissue and breast cancer. Through honest conversations and personal stories, we amplify the voices of women who have faced these challenges firsthand, sharing their journeys, fears, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way. Each episode brings you closer to the lived experiences of survivors, advocates, and caregivers, while also featuring leading experts in breast health and women's health. Together, we break down the barriers, provide vital education, and empower listeners to make informed decisions about their own breast health. Whether you're navigating your own diagnosis, supporting a loved one, or passionate about women's health equity, Clear Voices of Hope is your source for real stories, reliable information, and a supportive community. Join us as we shine a light on the path to early detection, better care, and hope for every woman. Caitlin Moyer, thank you so much for coming onto the Clear Voices of Hope and being willing to share your story today. I am so grateful for you and your willingness. I know this isn't something that you have necessarily done a lot of, and so I really appreciate your time and your heart and your willingness to kind of step over that threshold and say, okay, I see the value and the importance of these stories and what women are facing on an everyday, that I know that you have a really powerful story to share about what it was like to be diagnosed with dense breast tissue and what has happened since, especially given your family history and especially given the fact that you are what we would call the picture of health. You're very active, you're athletic, you've got a lot of great resources around you, and still found this journey to be really challenging to navigate. And so I just really cherish your willingness to be here and for this opportunity to get to know you and to hear this story in your words. I think that's really what's going to be most impactful for the woman listening to this, and for just for you to be able to share from your heart your experience. And so if you would just take a moment to introduce yourself, let us know where you're at so we can also track what states, because every state is a little bit different based on the laws and what type of insurance you have and all the things. So I think that's also helpful to know where you're at and kind of what brought you here.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Caitlin, and I am born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where I am talking to you from right now, a little suburb outside of Milwaukee. I am a yoga teacher. I do fitness stuff on the side. So as you mentioned, very, very active, very into health. And then I am a marketing professional. I have my own marketing and communications business. This journey for me started about 3 years ago, before I turned 40. I have family history of breast cancer. My maternal grandmother had it, passed away from it eventually. And so I had promised my mom, and my mom has never had it, knock on wood, but promised her that, when I could get my mammogram, I would get it every year. Got my first one right after I turned 39, and it came back normal, but with that disclaimer that you have dense breasts. And I was like, what does this mean? I don't know. First mammogram. My mom said, oh, I have that too. Like, it's just really hard to see stuff. And that's, the extent of, what I was told and my understanding. And then after that, do you want me to continue?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the fact that your mom, had some connection to it, she understood that she had dense breast tissue and knew that it made things hard to see. And so I think these conversations, first of all, are really important for families to have. Not everybody has those conversations or normalizes having those conversations. So I love that you brought that piece into it. And then, even going back to your mom's story, though, sounds like, I don't know what other screenings that she was even offered.
Yeah, I don't either. I know that, recently she was asked to have like an MRI just to be safe, but she hadn't been under like all the stuff that I'm going through or have gone through. She didn't have like any of that. I think she was just kind of like, we just have to like, know that we can't see everything. And I'm more to ask questions and to get the second opinions.
Tell me what that was like then. You're doing your due diligence. You go in, you get your mammogram, and they tell you Did they tell you in person? Did they send you a letter?
I just got a letter. Yeah, they're like, if you hear from us, that means something's bad, basically. And if you just get a letter and if everything's fine, you'll get a letter in the mail. And so I got that letter and then I showed it to my mom and she said, "Oh yeah, I have that too." It's just it's hard to see things on the mammograms and I didn't really think too much of it. And then the next year, just because I was going to do my due diligence and have my yearly exam, I had timed it up with my visit to my gynecologist, a male gynecologist at the time. And I had just come from my mammogram and saw him, and he said, "Oh, you had another mammogram? Well, if this is fine, you only need one every 5 years." And I'm like, I don't think that's the case, in the back of my mind.
Okay, so that is concerning.
Very concerning, right? And I've like looked that up and I'm like, is he confusing it with like a pap smear or like I know that's what he said to me and I was like, no, that's a red flag. So
yeah, that is a red flag and I'm glad you caught it.
And so sure enough, so okay, I saw him, did my, annual exam there. And then, 2 days later was called back for more pictures on that very mammogram. So, I was like, well, now I can't ever skip that. Not that I was going to, but I've since found another gynecologist, that I trust. But that's really what kickstarted the journey. Went back for more imaging on that one. And then, they needed to do a stereotactic biopsy. And then that one wasn't inconclusive, so basically did a surgical biopsy. And so the time frame was June through October of like having the mammogram and then the follow-up, the biopsy, the surgery. And so all that time was going by and I'm freaking out and wondering what's going on. And, I don't really have a lot of people around me that, know about this stuff or that I really want to tell people about it. So kind of ruined the summer, that whole year, going through it. Thankfully, everything actually came out okay. I have, this is the things that I never remember, all the acronyms, ADH, ALH, and LCIS. So that's plus the dense breast tissue, so it is requiring more monitoring. I love the breast cancer surgeon that I have and the nurse practitioner that's been assigned to keep up with me, but we've decided to do alternating mammograms and MRIs like every 6 months to watch.
Okay.
But since that, there's been more things that have been found, and I've had more biopsies since, including 2, which were just thankfully benign last week. But ever since that first one that was normal, nothing has been normal. There's always been something to be biopsied or something to watch and wait and see. And it's so nerve-wracking and so scary because it's just like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, that is scary, and I'm sorry. I can imagine. I know what it's like just to go back for follow-ups once you have been diagnosed, but also I don't think people talk about this part of it enough where there's still that constant worry of like wondering when and if. It almost feels like when, like there's almost a sense of like inevitability that it's like, why are we putting that on ourselves, right? When you say waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It kind of is. It's like how do you escape it so many times? Oh, it's been and again, like when is it not going to be? And hopefully it never, but it just feels inevitable.
Right. And you are doing your due diligence and you're tracking everything really early. I'm so glad that you have a really good breast surgeon that you like, and it sounds like you've got a great gynecologist, and that you do have a team that's working really well together, that's working well for what you want. I think this is an important piece of the story to really drive home that part where you switched gynecologists, where you knew you needed better care, where there was that red flag. I truly believe that like advocacy is really our best tool right now. So when something doesn't feel right to you, taking those next steps to like let it not feel right, like don't ignore the red flags and let yourself get curious about what that is without brushing it off, without going, okay, because I think there's definitely a part of us that want to just believe that everything's fine and we don't want to
Mhm.
worry about it. Like, of course, like, great, cool, see you in 5 years. Nothing would be better, right?
Right.
But the truth is that didn't sit right in you, and finding that peace to give yourself permission to like be uncomfortable and like with that to then take the next steps to really have to put in some more effort to go make sure that you were receiving good care. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, this was an OB GYN I have seen for many years, and he's fine, but I don't have children, so I just saw him, once a year for my annual appointment, and he had mentioned at right before I had my first mammogram, like, oh, you have family history, and you're going to be 40 soon enough, like you're close enough, you can get a mammogram. So I went, and that's when I did that, and that was, I have a regular practitioner too, but this doctor was kind of the women part of the services, so I that was who would tell me or order a mammogram for me. And so then I came back, and the next year that he told me that, and it was like, well, you sent me early because of my grandmother's history. Like, why were you saying this now? And it just was weird. And then sure enough, it kickstarted this, I was just like, well, I already was kind of on the fence about him, but I was like, for once a year thing, and I'm not delivering my babies or anything. It's fine. I can deal with it. But I was like, no, I'm not. I've got to change. I've got to change. So I've changed that too, and now I just have a whole breast care team that's very vigilant, and I feel very confident in them. In the level of care is great. I will say though, it's a double-edged sword because things like the MRI catch so many false things, or things that could be areas of worry. Like my recent one, I think is just hormones or something like that was causing this change. But I went through 2 MRI guided biopsies because of that, and those are extremely painful. Those take
Yeah.
a week to heal from. Those require time off from a physical part of my job when I'm teaching yoga classes and things like that. And just more watching and waiting and worrying, and in between, when's that scheduled? When did the results come back? All of that stuff. So I'm glad that the technology exists to detect these things, but with that comes, more false alarm type of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have heard that. And I want to thank you for being here so soon after having just gone through that, because I know it's really fresh on your mind and on your heart, and probably still healing from it in some ways, even physically. And it does bring up, in some cases, and I think sometimes that's even the argument for not doing more MRIs, is because of the false, not necessarily positive, but the indication that there could be something more further investigation. I don't think there's anything false about that, and of course we want that negative result, but it does give you more things to then track and follow up on. And then the extra toll of wondering, going for another procedure, and deciding which things are worth going further with and which ones aren't. And so I wonder what you have to say about that, or what your thoughts are, because this is something you're doing quite consistently. To the woman that's maybe getting that advice, or they're hearing, hey, you know what, you're going to get a lot of false positives, that they like to say, or that, for some people it's just like, oh, it's too much to worry about. They use that language a lot, that we don't want to give women more to worry about. And certainly all that's true, but at the same time, it's such an interesting dance to have to do, because of course you also want to know, and you also want that reassurance, and you also do want to catch something early if that is indeed the case. So I'm just curious how you balance that,
I
or
think
how you navigate
I think
that.
everything you said is is absolutely true. It is a balance. The first time going through all this, I mentioned it was, 4 months from something showing up on the mammogram to having it surgically removed and finding out everything was indeed benign. So that level of worry is tough, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I want to go through this again, when they're saying now we want to put you on the MRIs and this schedule. And but just so you know, those do pick up other things, and sometimes, things that are more that we kind of have to watch and worry about that might not actually be things that are bad. And I just thought to myself, okay, well, if this happens again, where I have to go through this whole 4-month period or more of this, like, when do you, like, I have a good friend who, her family has the gene, right? I don't think I mentioned this, but when I was going through this whole procedure, the first time I went through the genetic testing and found out my family does not have the gene, despite my family history of breast cancer with my grandmother. But her family has the gene, and she and her sister decided to just have mastectomies. And I'm like, well, part of me is like, if this keeps happening, like it's not cheap too. We didn't even talk about, insurance and the out-of-pocket costs and all of that, and just the emotional toll. I'm like, if this keeps happening, is that something I would consider doing, even though I don't have the gene, just because it's to me, it's not if, it's when. And just the emotional toll and all of that, would that be better? And I was hoping that would just be like the first time was just going to be the one time, and then it's happened ever since. There's something to look at, another biopsy to have, and I'm like, how many more times am I going to give this and be like cut up, poked, prodded before, like, I just say, take it off? Like, that's something I want to address with my doctor. Right now I'm in the clear for another 6 months, hopefully. So I'm just taking a breather, but like you mentioned, it's really fresh right now, but that's where my head goes.
Yeah, of course. That's actually a fair place to go. I mean, we do offer it to women that have the gene, but for somebody in your situation, I mean, it certainly is a valid question to ask. And especially if, things do keep ringing a bell that require further investigation and further procedures they're not easy procedures, and the emotional toll, of course, is there. And I wonder, I know that dense breast tissue played a huge factor in my decision when I was diagnosed to get a double mastectomy versus a lumpectomy, because much like you, I was like, this isn't gonna, like, I don't want to keep coming back for more. I just want to be done, and I don't want to have to keep going through this again and again. Even just the screening and the biopsying, I just felt like it was going to be sort of this never-ending cycle. And if I could at least cut out that part of it, that would be helpful. Do you know, I don't know if you've had this conversation, maybe it's not even a fair question to ask, but without the gene, would your insurance cover that? You mentioned out-of-pocket expenses, so I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. To complicate things more, my husband was laid off in July, and as a business owner on my own, I would go through his insurance. So he had some severance, and we had insurance. We're gonna have to find some gap coverage. We're getting to that point, but yeah. So this is all coming up when I'm like, time is ticking on what we know is the good insurance right now. Please don't let anything come back. So I haven't investigated that. I was just praying that this would be benign as well, and that I would buy some time. We're obviously not going to go without insurance, but and honestly, what we had for insurance, it was supposed to be very friendly for high-risk breast cancer patients. But I'll tell you, every procedure I had to call and fight every single thing, because it was supposed to be 100% covered for mammograms, diagnostic MRIs, all of that, 100% covered before deductible. And they would not process it correctly every single time, only if certain high-risk codes were there. And my care team is great. Care team's like, what codes do they need? Just tell us. You have everything here. You have all the factors. You have family history. You don't have the gene, but you have, the ADH, the ALH, the LCIS, like, you have all this. And so
what else?
Then they do go, oh yeah, okay. So they're like, well, we code it however you want, but like, this is how it's, this is in the plan. It's supposed to be covered at 100%. So I was being told, no, the doctors aren't processing it right. The doctors are telling me, like, insurance isn't doing it right. And I'm just the middle person who's dealing with, like, all these other thoughts and feelings. And So anyways, I finally got one thing rectified, and then it would come up again. And I'm like, guys, we all agreed I'm high risk. Like, that's not something that goes away. Like, and I'm
Right.
like, well, we're looking at all of these claims individually. That's not how we do it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. There's just no compassion there. And the employer that the insurance is through just would have these webinars in October. We're so like breast cancer friendly and blah, 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 blah. And even when he was still working there, I
Mm.
would go on these seminars and be like, then how come you're not,
Yeah.
putting your, backing us up? You can say it, but when it comes to it, it's really, really tough. It shouldn't be that tough. And consider that I have probably more time than most people because I work for myself and I work from home and I don't have children and I'm consider myself pretty intelligent and I just worry about the people and I'm healthy. At the end of the day, I
Hmm.
am healthy. Like someone who's actually really, really sick, someone that has a million other things going on, like multiple children, or who's not that educated and they're just blindly having to like pay or they don't have the time or the energy to fight all of this. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I will sit on hold for an hour. Yes, I will. I will answer my emails while I'm waiting for your response
Hmm.
because I know that, you have to advocate for yourself. But there's a lot of people that just can't. And it really,
Yeah.
that part is probably one of the more frustrating parts of the whole situation is just dealing with the medical system here in the United States.
Yeah, I think that's really the biggest problem, I think, is getting and even having time for that. It feels like a part-time job in and of itself, never mind everything else that you're dealing with, then just trying to prove that you need the thing that you need that like you said, you already know you're high risk. Why do you have to keep proving it over and over again? You're following recommended guidelines, standard of care, and yet it's still a battle. And thank goodness you are willing to put yourself out there and keep pushing for it because I know it'll help the next person behind you. But that being said, like you mentioned, there's so many women that don't have the ability, the time, the resources, all of the things that it takes to push something like this through, and how frustrating that is. And why I'm even so grateful for you and women like you that are willing to share your stories and help point out where these issues really are and how bad it really is, that you would have to even spend this much time and energy dedicated to that
Uh-huh.
just to get the care that you were advised that you needed. So tell me a little bit about, your life today. You're working. Tell us a little bit if you want to share
Sure.
about what you
Yeah.
do.
I have a background in sports marketing. I worked for an MLB team for almost 2 decades. And then right after COVID, I started my own communications and marketing company. I still work heavily in the sports industry, but not exclusive to sports. Ideation, consulting, social media, article writing, anything, PR, anything in that genre. I work at a lot of different, golf is kind of my passion or I'd say is my main focus. I have a couple different PGA Tour events that I work with and some golf clients, and I write for a golf publication, but not completely exclusive to golf or sports, but that's just kind of where my passion is. And then I mentioned earlier that
Yeah.
I'm also a fitness professional, so I'm a registered yoga teacher. I'm specialized in yoga for golf, so golf comes in at all angles. I play a lot of golf, and I'm also a certified fitness trainer too. So teach boot camp class and teach yoga classes like almost every day per week. And I love that and just love being active. It helps me be
I love
creative
that.
in my marketing and communications job too. So if
Ah,
I'm trying to think of a cool headline or how do I want to shape the story or, problem solve for something, you go on a run or you go for a bike ride or you meditate and you're like, ah. So, and it keeps you balanced. It keeps you grounded. And I think I'm fortunate to have that background 'cause tying it into all of this too. I am pretty healthy overall. I live a healthy and active lifestyle. So that those factors aren't something that, can contribute. But it also having the calming mechanisms in place, breathing techniques of yoga, the meditation techniques, just the physical asanas, just to deal with some of the emotions and feelings that come up. But today
Mm-hmm.
I'm healthy. I'm happy. Just adopted 2 kittens 2 days ago. So
Oh my God.
it's super exciting. Yeah.
I love that. Have we named them yet?
No, we haven't. We can't decide.
That's
Can't
okay. Early
decide.
days yet. There's lots of time for that. You just never know. I love that. That's super sweet. Before we wrap up today, I just wondering what if there's anything you want to share to women that are listening or what you would like them to know.
I think it's okay to share your story. Like, this is outside of my comfort zone talking to you. Like, I had told very few people. I didn't want people worrying about me. I didn't want to have a lot of questions to answer, but keeping that inside too is also not great. So being not afraid to talk to other people about it, because the more you open up, the more you meet other people that are experiencing similar situations, or you might help someone else out too by sharing your story. So I think, just to put yourself out there, not be afraid to ask for help. If you need someone to go with you to an appointment, or like after my last procedure, like I hadn't even told my friend that this was happening again, because it's gotten so kind of consistent. But she's a nurse, and I was like, hey, I'm having some complications from this procedure. Would you be able to like just look at it? It's something that people don't feel comfortable talking about a lot of times, talking about anything with your health or your body, and especially like female parts of the body. You might talk about getting the flu, but you don't want to really share like, oh, I'm going through this with my breasts. And I think that's something that I think your work is so important, that we're looking to change that. And just, again, by sharing your story, you can get help, and you can also help others. They might not know what to say if you share your story. Like I think I have a lot of friends that haven't even had, I have a lot of younger friends that haven't even had their first mammograms yet. But I'm like, get it, even if that, me telling them, get it, don't put it off. You don't have it in your family, doesn't matter. Just do it. Even me sharing that, and they're like, wow, okay, Caitlin's going through all this. Maybe I should get mine. I should ask my doctor about that. If that's all that comes out of it, great. They don't need to know how to support me because they haven't been through it. They don't really know. That's okay. Just be there. Just be a friend.
Yeah, and they know that they can come to you with
Yeah.
questions too,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
they know that if something comes up, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? You know who I'm going to call? I'm going to call Caitlin right now because she's been through this. And I think that's a powerful piece that we don't even realize, that how much reassurance we are offering to others, just being willing to listen when they have questions, and knowing that you are available for those conversations, because I don't think a lot of people have places, like you said, that they can have those conversations, or that they are being had.
Like the friend I mentioned who had the double mastectomy, just because the genes in the family, she had gone through some of what I had gone through, and was like, well, and then she found out she too had the gene, and was like, okay, that's it. I'm not going through all that. So she made it very clear, like, hey, anything you ever want to talk about, um, I understand the feelings, emotions. And she's like the first person to, like, she'll just flat out ask, because it's not something you feel comfortable too, like bringing up with friends, especially if you don't see a friend often. You're like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going in for a biopsy. Like, you don't like touch, So she is proactively like, hey, how's everything going lately? Anything you want to talk about? And then if I say I have my upcoming procedure, she's like, probably has it on her calendar, check in. How did it go? Those people are so important. I want to be that person to someone else.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And just by doing this, you are, even if you don't feel like you are directly impacting them, just know that you are. Every time I share my story, I have so many people that come back and say, oh, thank you, or I told somebody else about your story. You just never know who's listening. And so it's really meaningful that you're willing to do this. And I think especially your story is, I want to say unique, but it's not. I think that there's a lot of women going through exactly what you're going through without talking about it. And so I think this is important to highlight your experience here, all the choices that you're having to navigate each 6 to 12 months, and the questions that you're still sitting with, and all the advocacy that you have to do behind it. And I don't think that people really realize that that's all happening in the background for you. And for many women in this position. So I really want to thank you for your willingness to share today.
And thank you so much for all the important work that you're doing and raising awareness and having people like me on it to share our stories. It's so important, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Caitlin, and we're just sending you all the best blessings and wishes for good health, and really grateful to have you on this journey with us.
Thank you, Lisa.